I know some people probably get tired of me talking about the subject of Bruce Lee, but it's relevant. It always has been, whether some people want to admit it or not. Some people never will, because it's a touchy subject for some people to talk about. But in this particular segment, I just want to touch on the fact that Bruce Lee was not really loved by a lot of white America. And the question is, why did white America not want Bruce Lee in the, I guess you can say, the idol status or the superhero type of status in America, or as an icon in America, probably more appropriately? It's really simple. They didn't want Bruce Lee to be popular in America because he wasn't white. I'll let you have that marinate for a moment. Now, those of you that know me, I'm not prejudiced as it relates to any other nationality. Of course, I support my people, as any other nationality should support their own people. But I love everybody. And you should know from my body of work that I'm not prejudiced. And it's impossible for a black person, if you will, use that term black. We just use it just for all intents and purposes here. It's impossible for us to be racist if we don't control any resources. We have no power of any particular resource on this planet. It's all been stripped of us and anybody else that is in the lower echelon. But anyway, be that as it may, we're on the subject of why white America, white supremacist America, didn't like Bruce Lee. It was not because Bruce Lee was not talented. We all know that he was exceptional. We all know that, as I'm speaking today, he is known throughout the world as one of the greatest exponents of martial arts of our time. We all know this. But white supremacist America didn't like Bruce Lee. I'm not talking about whites in general. They're not inclusive unless they are of that same cloth as the aforementioned white supremacist America. White supremacist America, we must remember this. They believe that this country belongs only to them and no one else. Even though it's occupied by blacks, Latinos, Asians, Jews, Germans, Russians, some of everybody. Even though it's occupied by many people, it's a melting pot. They still believe that this country is only theirs. Look at the Ku Klux Klan. They believe that this country only belongs to them. And there's other groups that believe the same. But for the most part, the white supremacy ideology believes that this country, North America, where we are, only belongs to them. And their heroes, they feel, should be like them, should be white. Bruce Lee wasn't white, so he didn't fit the mold. And then America and China at the time had some tension between the two. They was not going to allow a Chinese to come here and become America's hero. Even though Bruce Lee is now and has been labeled as the hero of China, because he did something in China that no other Oriental or Asian or Chinese has ever done, and that was popularize something from their culture, Chinese martial arts, here in America and throughout the world, abroad. Bruce Lee did that. And he graced the stage, the big screen, at the time, in high fashion, I should say. Very charismatic, very athletic, very skillful in the art of pugilism or fighting. And they just couldn't have it. They just did not want to accept that a Chinese man was garnering all of this popularity in America. So much so, Bruce Lee became upset because he was originally supposed to appear in the television series called Kung Fu back in the 70s. But subsequently, David Carradine, a white actor, took that role, and he became Kwai Chang Caine in that television series, above a Chinese actor, and especially a Chinese actor who was also a very, very good martial artist. And David Carradine did not have that skill set. So that's a prime example that they didn't want a Chinese to play that role. And Van Williams talks about Bruce Lee and his experience with him during the Green Hornet episodes, how Bruce Lee was his sidekick. You see that he played the butler and the chauffeur to the white man who was the star. Even though with Bruce Lee's talent, he was still popular as Kato, and people knew him as Kato, and that pretty much was what catapulted him to all of those other roles here in America. I mean, he appeared in Longstreet, a few of those episodes with James Franciscus. He appeared in Marlowe with James Garner, the Western series, and he appeared in some other movies. And then he was making his own films over in Hong Kong, you know, Fist Pearl, The Big Boss, and Chinese Connection, and so forth. So, as an American icon, they didn't want Bruce Lee to become that American icon because in their mind, it was un-American. They wanted a white American. Just like they didn't want a black man to be the hero. There were no black heroes during the 60s and 70s in the film industry. It was unheard of. There was still an unrest in America as a result of what took place in the 50s and the 60s with Dr. King and then Malcolm X and so forth. We were still dealing with civil rights, trying to be looked at as equal as men and women in comparison to our white counterparts. We were going through those struggles. Now, if black people were not accepted during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and you're having to drink in a colored only or black people only water fountain, and you had to go to the back of the building to go into the restaurant or theater, or you had to go to the back of the bus, if all of this was happening during the 60s and 70s, then why would you let an Oriental, an Asian, take the first billing in a movie? You just simply wouldn't.